Yeah.
Okay.
So what we're going to do, we're going to learn a little Be'ez Hashem about Purim. Learn Shar Kavan. This is a big side, a big foundation of what the whole idea of Purim is. And there's a lot of big, very strong Shlitus of the Ari, and then we'll understand the way it's brought down a little bit in Teres Chassidus. But first, just for interesting, I guess entertainment-wise, go to Purim, we're going to start with a few shilas. These are shilas about Purim, and it's in English because it's from a book that I wrote on Purim. So these are that's what the book opens up with these 20 shilas. And I think according to what we understand in Teres Ari, we're going to understand the answer to all these questions. So we'll start with the questions. Very simple questions. So all the Yom Tovim, we know the name of a Yom Tov is called because of a certain name in Lashon Kodesh. Pesach, it's Pasach. It means Hashem skipped over, or Hashem had Rachmanas. Rosh Hashanah, even Chanukah, which is Merabonim. So the Ran writes it's Chanukah Fei, it means that it rests on the 25th day. So they're all words, technical words, Lashon Kodesh, they're Hebrew words. Purim is the only Yom Tov that's actually named after a Persian word, which is Kipul Puru girl, which is a Persian word. So why do you call the Yom Tov on the Persian name? That's the first shayla. Second question is, all Yom Tov are named because of a particular nes, a miracle that happened on that day. So Hashem skipped over the doors, the sukkahs on the Akavit, sat in the clouds of glory. But Purim is named actually after something that was negative. Purim is Hippo Pura Goyrol to find out when they can annihilate Klal Yisrael. So why do we call Purim on the day of the negative? Something on the negative. You're not calling Purim V'nahapachu. You would call Purim the day it was transformed. You can't call it the day of transformation. No, you call it the day of the lot. The day of the lot has to do with the negativity, not the result, which was the positive outcome. It's like calling Pesach Pare or Makas, or Avodim, whatever. All the Yom Tovim are celebrated for revealed miracles. Right? So there's actually a miracle, a Chanukah oil, whatever, or splitting of the sea. However, Purim it's all natural events. They seem to be just coincidental. Like I said, in the name of the Medrash, the Medrash says, in Esther Rabbah, that Achashverosh is a melech tipish, that he kills his wife on the advice of his advisor, and then kills his advisor on the advice of his wife. That's all. That's how you can solve the whole story of Purim. So he did. He wanted to kill, but he doesn't kill. Okay, so it's a melech tipish. It's like, one day like this, one like that. Very impartial. So what's the Yom Tov? Also, there's two main Yom Tovim in the Shalosh Regalim. Two main Yom Tovim in the Shalosh Regalim. Obviously, Pesach and Sukkot, right? The Shavuos is the Atzeres of Sukkot, which means it's like the Shmini Atzeres of Sukkot, which means that the two main Yom Tovim represent is the beginning is Pesach. Well, it's Pesach and Sukkot. Pesach and Sukkot is a Chodesh Aviv and Chag Asif, which means that it's the beginning of spring. That's the first Pesach, and then it's the beginning of the weather that you gather, the weather like the wet season, right? So it's the beginning of also Tishrei is the beginning of is Rosh Hashanah for the Shana, and Nisan is Rosh Hashanah l'Chadashim, the beginning of the new months. So the first month and the first day of the first year. So when does the Yom Tov fall out? So there's a Chazon Ish that actually says something very simple and very logical. He says that there's a lot of other reasons why it happens. Tezvav, this is Tezvav for Pesach is clearly it happens because that's when you see Messiah is. But Tezvav for Sukkot is much more problematic. Why Tezvav? Why do we celebrate Sukkot on Tezvav? If you want to already celebrate it in Tishrei, why do you do Tezvav? I don't know if you know, there's a famous Gra that says the 3 days after Yom Kippur, or Chazar, or on Yaakov, whatever, but it's a shayla, it's a question. Why Tezvav? So the Chazon Ish argues and says very simply because it's really celebrating the first Tishrei. We're celebrating Tishrei, the beginning of this season. So the Torah puts it in the middle. The Torah the Torah talks about the middle point. Really, it's the middle point to give you direction, saying really it represents the entire month, right? To say like the midpoint is like the center of that idea. So then it's very strange that Purim in Chutz La'aretz, which is the way most people celebrate Purim, is dafka on the 14th. Okay, you can say because Noach, of course, we understand why they celebrate on the 14th, but everything is b'hashgacha. So why is the dafka on the 14th, one day off? And in the other cities, it's that are surrounded by a wall, it's on the 15th. Another issue. So these are interesting things about Purim. Every Yom Tov is obviously celebrated on the same day, right? The only reason why we celebrate 2 days Yom Tov Sukkot or 2 days Yom Tov Pesach, etc., is because sake of the year, because we don't know when the day is. But technically, just one day. It's Tezvav. Just we don't know when Tezvav is. Purim is the only Yom Tov that we have that l'chatchila b'zmaneihem that there's manish that there's 2 different days. There's a day that certain people celebrate on one day, certain people celebrate the other way. What kind of Yom Tov is that we don't celebrate all together? Now l'chatchila there's 2 separate days. All the mitzvahs are performed on the day itself. Of course, right? You eat the matzah on Pesach. By Purim, there's a phenomenon that you can, like the first Mishnah in the Megillah Nikras, Yud Aleph, Yud Beis, Yud Gimel, Yud Dalet as well, which means that it's possible to start reading the Megillah not on Purim. It's like saying, okay, it's very difficult to eat matzah on Pesach, so if you can't eat matzah on Pesach, eat matzah, 3 weeks before, because to celebrate Pesach. It's a modern thing, right? If it's the mitzvah, the mitzvah is on the day, you should celebrate that day. You understand the question?
Pesach Sheni technicality then?
Pesach Sheni is not a technicality, but it's Pesach. It's still Pesach. It's Pesach Sheni.
But it's a day separated that it's...
But still, it's still Pesach. In other words, you're celebrating, you call it a Pesach Sheni, but it's still a gather of a Pesach. The Torah says that there's a gather of Pesach. And it has a gather. This is not Pesach. This is not Purim. Yud Aleph is not Purim. You read the Megillah, it's not Yud Aleph. And there's a Das Yerushalmi. The Yerushalmi, the first Perek of Megillah, actually says that in certain Neshas Atchak, you can actually read from Rosh Chodesh. From Rosh Chodesh, you're not after Tezvav. But till Tezvav, the first half of the month, you can read any day. Chodesh and Nepach, Yerushalmi says that any day of the month you can actually read. Usually you read the Megillah, it's like you light Hanukkah. Okay, I don't know what to do. Hanukkah, I'm not going to have candles. I light it on, Tezvav Tishrei. What does it have to do? How do you do a mitzvah that's not in the day? Another interesting to 7 is that all the great heroic figures and the stories of the Yom Tov are all male. And God, not only the male, but they also start with the letter Mem. This is the Magal Lukas writes. Moshe, Matisyahu, Mordechai, Mashiach, Menachem, Shmoi. It's all Mem. Because Mem represents a messianic ideal. It's Mem is the only pasuk in the Torah that has a closed Mem. Huh? Mordechai, yeah. So all the but
it's a tikkun from
Mipiria, correct? And the yeah. So this is the idea of Mem. That is the Mashiach. So everything has to do with Mem, and it's all male. Sukkos that has a final Mem within the word, within the middle of the letter, not at the end of a word. Lemarba Hamisra. Lemarba, the word Lemarba, the Mem is spelled with a
and the
Ashlasmam, yeah, and Mem Sofit. If you know. Yeah. So the story of Purim is Megillah Esther. That that Kavuni L'Doris, Kasvuni L'Doris. It's all Esther. Esther, because of Esther, we have the story in Megillah. In fact, it's called Megillah Esther. All of them are Toras Moshe, Megillah Eichos, Yirmiyah, which means that it was written by a man. Purim is known as Megillah Esther, also a feminine. Kasvuni L'Doris. So, and it's called Megillah Esther. It's called a Megillah on a woman. All of them, women are exempt. I'm not talking about all the Gzeirah. I think this is a general idea that women generally are exempt from mitzvahs. But Chanukah also in Purim, Afim Weaker and less, they're obligated as men. So why that? So we see another thing about strongly a woman. All of the Yom Tovim begin when there's new cycles. So Pesach and Sukkot is a new cycle. It's a cycle of the months, which is Nisan, and the cycle of the year, which is Tishrei. And Purim is on the final month, the 12th month of the year. So it represents the ending. And Chazal actually call Purim the Soif Kol HaNisim. So that's the Soif Kol HaNisim. So it means that it's the last of the miracles, the last of Nisan. And when do we celebrate Purim? In the last Chodesh of the month. Not in the beginning. It represents something like it's an ending of something, not a beginning of something. All Yom Tovim begin with Matan Torah, of course. I'm sorry, we have to say I'm going to skip one. 11. Purim is beginning, yeah, because all Yom Tovim, Simcha is that the Yom Tovim will be in his battle, right? This is also Yerushalmi. Yerushalmi writes it clearly. The Rambam could be the Rambam only means the kisvei, the tsaras of the Yom Tov will not be remembered. We don't have to remember the tzar. We don't have to remember Pare, but we'll still be celebrating. But the pashas in the pashas of Yerushalmi is that call it that all the Yom Tov is Asim is battle Chutz and Purim, the halachas, and the idea of Purim. So it's not in his battle. So Purim is not only represents something that is the beginning of a future, because that's why Rav Nachman writes that Purim is actually the first Yom Tov of Lassam. So on the one hand, it's the end Yom Tov of Golus, because it's the 12th month, but it's the first Yom Tov of Lassam. Why? What is it? What is it about Purim? All Yom Tov begin at Matan Torah, and yeah, so all Yom Tov are rooted in the first. So all Yom Tov obviously are rooted in the first Kabbalah Satorah. Kabbalah Torah, so you have Pesach, Sukkot, and Shavuos. You have all the Kabbalah Satorah. Here, Hada Kiblu. It's like a re-acceptance of Matan Torah. Re-acceptance of Matan Torah. In the re-acceptance of Matan Torah, we finally receive the Yom Tov of Purim. So it's like a chiddush of Matan Torah, like a Kibbul Masha Kibbul Kvar. All of the Yom Tovim are related to Moshe. Purim is related to Yeshua, because the Gemara, the Mishnah says that any city that's walled on Moshe Yeshua. So the Gemara Taka says in the Bavli, the Gemara says that maybe it's from Moshe Achashverosh, which actually makes more sense. Right, because the story happened in Achashverosh. So any wall, this wall in Achashverosh should be. But the Gemara, the Yerushalmi says that the reason why we do is to give cover to Yeshua, because the Eretz Yisrael was nechrav then, Eretz Yisrael was destroyed. To give the cover to Eretz Yisrael, we do it. But still, we do it for Yeshua.
Rashi on the Gemara in the Rif says Moshe actually. The Moshe. Rashi in the Rif on yeah. I don't know why, but he said Moshe.
Okay, but that's Mishnah says Yeshua. Yeah, Mishnah says Yeshua. Okay, you have to look at that Rashi, what that means. Maybe it means, okay, it's interesting. Now, all of them Tovim occurred either in Eretz Yisrael or moving towards Eretz Yisrael. And Purim is called Nashim Chutz La'aretz. This is one of the reasons why we don't say Halal. But the Gemara brings 3 reasons why you don't say Halal, Katan, Cheshesh, etc. And one of the reasons is Einam Nesach Nashim Chutz La'aretz, which means we don't say Nesach Nesach. So Purim is Dafka Nes in Chutz La'aretz. You see, this is a theme over here going on. We have to understand what the theme is. 15. All other Yom Tovim are either Torah based. Okay, that's I guess that's not only is not Eretz Yisrael, but it's also there's no Beis Hamikdash. All the Yom Tovim, there's a prohibition. It's a gather of Yom Tov. So the Gemara says that Yom Tov they were not mekabel on themselves, right? The Megillah first says Yom Tov also. Yom Tov is a gather. Yom Tov means that there's an Isur Malacha. So the Baruch Nesa Taka wanted to have Isur Malacha. The Klal Yisrael was not mekabel on themselves. So therefore, there's no Isur Malacha on Yom Tov on Purim. And not that you should work, it's not like Isur, but there's no Isser to do work on Purim. So that's another thing. All Yom Tovim is dafka. You need das. You need awareness. Sukkot not only is l'manyedi, because Sukkot is shaftis b'nei Yisrael, but the Bach writes that if you sit in the sukkah and you don't have das, you're sitting in the sukkah, you're not yotze to the mitzvah. There's only 2 mitzvahs. The tefillin and sukkahs. If you don't have das, you're not yotze to the mitzvah. And Purim is Adon Le'yoda. So Dafke not Das. The opposite of Das. All the other Tovim, there is a certain measurement how much you have to drink. Yeah, you have to Lugma, you have to drink Kois, whatever, or a certain amount of Yain. The Rambam writes that he used to put Shomerim on Yom Tov to walk around to make sure people don't drink too much. That was like a thing. You don't, on Yom Tov, you can Chetzel Hashem, Chetzel Hashem. Yeah, but on Purim is you have to drink enough. You have to drink more than enough. Okay, this is a difference in the Darban. That's Purim is the mitzvah Darban also to eat. And 20 is just a very simple thing. That all of the Yom Tovim there's a very serious dress code. You have to have, the Shabbat and the Yom Tov is a certain way to dress. Purim is people used to get dressed up. I mean, not that kids do this, but there are more rights. This is a minig so to dress in costumes. So we have to understand all these chilukim. If there's some type of overarching theme that'll help us understand what Purim is. Gerade, this is not one of the shilas here, but there's a famous thing that the Nesaska writes between the difference between a gragger and a dreidel. Yeah, that a gragger you hold from the bottom, and a dreidel you hold from the top, because one represents a nest that comes from the top, one represents this is the famous word from the Nesaska. But I was thinking, it just that maybe also is another interesting chilik is that the dreidel, when you spin it, the whole thing spins. But a dragger, when you spin it, actually the bottom is stationary. So what does that represent? The bottom actually stays in the same place. Everything, the top spins, but the bottom stays in the same place. By the way, spinning, that's a whole nother, I don't want to get into this, but spinning, making circles at a square, always is connected to minig yisrael. I told you this once? Yeah. Anytime there's a minig yisrael, we make circles out of square things. Because square represents... Yes, hakafes and all the. Anytime there's a minig yisrael, we're taking things out of square, which means finite, defined, and that's the passion. That's our participation represents a circle, which is infinite. What's a square? A dreidel square. A gragger is square. You take something square when you a bima is square. A chuppah you make a circle. Huh?
But if you really spin a dreidel well, the axis isn't moving either.
How can that be?
It's moving.
It's one piece.
Because it's the closest to the center.
I got it, but it's still moving something. It's impossible to do. It's one piece.
Put a string around
Turning
it.
on the axis.
The middle is
the axis is not attached. It's not
the
this.
other thing.
The axis is not detached from the piece.
I'm saying most people aren't great spinners.
By the way, I just want to. First of all, I just want to say. By the way, I don't know. I think it does. I don't know. I can't. It doesn't sound like. It moves very. Yes, it moves less. But
The center's not.
It's not. We need to. I'm talking about. I'm talking about
in one spot.
Yeah.
Is it okay?
No,
Okay,
I'm
whatever.
about actual
I know what he's saying.
I'm talking about the stick. I'm talking about the stick. I'm talking about this. Yeah, exactly. When we'll be enough drunk on Purim, we can talk about the shaila more be'edim.
What's the pneumius of the circle taking around the square?
Huh?
What's the pneumius of the
The
circle?
pneumius is a circle means the Ein Sofius. That Klal Yisrael is participating, is giving his passion. Passion is always Ein Sofius. Then there's the Hakbalah.
Isn't it that anything that comes from the Rebbeinu Shalom is not square?
Oh, there's Emerubim Meispirations. That's Bemis. That's Bemis. Emerubim Meispirations. Yeah.
So why is our participation the circle? Our participation is the square.
No, no. Emerubim Meispirations means something else. Okay, well, it's a good child. But I don't talk about shares and circles. It's a whole nother. Let's explain another labir. What's Yimei Purim? In Yimei Purim, Megillah, Vahamardachai. By the way, this is very interesting the way the Lashon Ari is Lashon Ari. He says Vahamardachai, not Vahamardachai. The thing Mordechai, because Mordechai is an idea. Mordechai is not only just a person, but he's an idea. Vahamishta, Vahasimcha. These are ideas. There's the Mishta, the Simcha, the Mordechai, the Megillah. What are these things? It's explained. Ki b'chol zman shel hagolus oimdim zav nukva acher b'acher kol yimei acher. Golus represents when Zohar Ampin and Nukva are standing in the beginning of back to back. What does that mean, back to back? Back to back means Zohar Ampin is, let's say, in very simple. The Malchus, which will be our experience of life. We're in the Malchus. Okay, Malchus is the temperature of creation in the present moment. That's Malchus. The barometer. What's the the tzaddikim say that if you want to know what the Malchus in the world is, you have to see what women are talking about. When the women are talking about it, because that's what's going on in the world. You want to know they're talking about Ukraine and Russia. Okay, that's what's going on. That's the temperature of the world. And also Beruchli is like they feel like they're despair, or they feel like it's gonna be hope. And so that's like what do people talk about in the street? That's together of the Malchus. Now Malchus, in its correct form, it's always like this, is really connected to Zohar Ampin. Zohar Ampin that's Kuchabrichu. Like Kuchabrichu, Shchinte is Malchus. Kuchabrichu represents the transcendence, which means the oil that's coming down into this world that's being revealed in the Malchus of creation. When there's Zohar Ampin and Malchus are in a state of unity, upon him, meaning they both, not both, because the Malchus is in a relationship with Zohar Ampin and recognizes what it's receiving. That's what Malchus. Well, that's the Yichud, which means that I'm living in the world of Malchus, and I recognize that I'm guided by the hand of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That means that I'm living upon him. What does it mean that I'm living Achar B'Achar? Achar B'Achar means there could be two levels of Achar B'Achar. There could be one level of Astar of Achar B'Achar, which means I know that Hashem is present in my life. I just don't understand how. I don't get it. I don't get what that means. I understand that there's a relationship and there's a chayas that's coming down to me, and my life has meaning and purpose and direction. I just don't understand how it's working out. I don't understand how this thing is and that thing is. That's a hastara. I'm not saying the gilui of that. That's Golas. So Golas is the Achar B'Achar, where I know I'm in a relationship with Zohar Ampin. I know I'm in a relationship with Kadosh Baruch Hu. I just don't experience the understanding of how it is. It seems to me as if Hashem Kaviyachol, I'm just seeing his backside. It's like it's Achar. I'm seeing the backside. I know I'm getting from the Eibusher. I just don't understand how and why and what's the purpose. That's the Achar B'Achar. Then there's the deeper madrega of Achar B'Achar, which is the hastara b'soicha hastara, the hastara b'soicha hastara, b'noicha aster aser, which is Purim, is that not only don't I understand what I'm receiving, I don't even know that I am receiving. I lost even a relation. I don't even know that I'm in dialogue with the Kodesh Baruch. Okay, that's the hastara of the hastara. So what is that? I just mock it. I just understand how or what's the purpose. And then Panam is like, even just think about it in terms of like a physical relationship. When you're in a relationship with somebody, and let's say you have a boss, and the boss, I don't know if you are the boss, you're hearing from the boss, doesn't go do something. I don't understand why I have to do that. I didn't ask you. You have to do it. Right? I'm telling you, if you're the boss, I'm telling you to do it. That's an Achar B'Achar relationship. The recipient of that demand says, okay, I have to listen to the guy. He's my boss. Okay, I understand. I have to do it, but I don't understand why. Okay, that's when it's still Achar B'Achar. Panim is when they're having a dialogue. I said, okay, it makes sense what you're telling me to do. I got it. Okay, so that's the general idea. During the weekday, it's always Achar B'Achar. It's back to back. Lulei b'shoyes atfilo b'shabbasos. Besides, there he says on Shabbos, B'shas atfilo, we learned already. They writes many times that tefillah can be a bechina of Shabbos during the week. So what is tefillah? Tefillah is when you get some sense, some momentary experience where I actually feel in a relationship. I feel like this Clarkite, this connection. I really feel that I'm in a relationship with Hashem. In order to get to a higher level of Panam, this is the way it works. This is very important. Panam, the relationship is that it's face to face, and then it needs to get the world. This is on a very big cosmic level. The world needs to get to a higher state of Panam. So there's a Panam relationship, which means that there's a relationship we have an Akar and Elikus. Let's say we'll talk about. I will explain this a little bit more. But let's say we're talking about Bismana bias, my bias vision. Around bias vision, there was Asar Nisim. There was revealed miracles. There was Chamisha Dvarim that was installed by Sheni. It was a time of miraculous events. So Klal Yisrael was an experience that we recognize that we come Shem Shabbat Liris Kachbar Lirois. We actually came to experience. We experienced at the Beis Hamikdash. We experienced Elikos. That was a Panam relationship. Then the world had to go even to a higher madrig. Now it's counterintuitive because there's a level of achshadar bitmaya. That's a very classic way. But then there's the movement of creation is constantly getting to the place of anhagas yichud. Constantly getting to the place of yichud. It means that in the overarching theme of creation from the beginning of time to the end of time, it's always progressing towards a higher level of yichud. Always. Sometimes it slips and turns and movements, which you see things going backwards, but ultimately, collectively, the collective creation is always moving, marching forward. It's always progressing. So there's Be'ita, Achishena. Achishena is we're going to make it quicker. But Be'ita and its man, everything's always moving towards this play. The world's always working towards the world of Yichud. But sometimes a relationship that has an eponym, and something has to get deeper. So let's say you have a eponym. Let's say, give me an example, just a simple example. Let's say you have a eponym relationship with your child, even though generally you don't. But let's say you have a eponym relationship with a child, and then the child becomes mature, Instead of a child being 15, now the child is 25. Right? If you're going to still have a relationship with your child the way you were when you were 15, you're going to say, oh, it's the same way. I'm going to have the, whatever, we're going to kid, but it's not going to work. 25 is already an adult. They have different desires, different wants, different things. So you have to adapt to have a true panim relationship. You have to adapt to a new, higher level, a higher type of relationship. It's not going to be the same thing when you were 15 or when they were 5, right? So it's constantly evolving. But to get from one panim relationship to a higher panim relationship, there has to go through something that's called a nesira. A nesira is basically going back to the story of Adam Chava in the garden, in the story of the beginning of creation, where Adam and Chava is that the Hebrew, we're back to back, acher ba'acher, right? They can put him to zona, whatever the Gemara says different ways. They were back to back, and then that there was enough tardema on Adam, and Hashem took one of his sides. Itzela is from the same language as Bitzalmenu Kidmusenu, which is the same idea in the imagination. The shadow side of Adam / Adam Chava, because Adam is not Adam male, right? Adam is both Zachar Rekeva Bar Oisam as one unit. In that Zachar Rekeva Bar Oisam as one unit, which is two as one, there was a severing of these two parts. So they were like this. And now, in order for them to become two separate beings, there's a separation, which means they're moving away from each other, right? They're cut. That's in the seer, and then they're moving away from each other. What's the tachlis of them moving away from each other? It should be Eza Kenegdoi. When they're going to face Eza Kenegdoi, it should be Panim upon him. Right? But to get to the place from Acher Ba'acher to Panim upon him, they actually have to cut something. They have to separate. They have to have Havdalah, and the Havdalah actually have to get further away. This is like, in a very, very simple language, you have a relationship with your 10-year-old or 20, let's say a 15-year-old, and your relationship is Panim upon him. In order for this to move, to get to a higher level of Panim upon him, there's going to be some distance, some rechuk. The child is going to become more independent. The father is going to say, I don't understand you. You're always my guy. You're always with me. And it's painful. This is all part of the painful process of the separation in order to get to a higher level of Panim upon him. So the Nesira, the separation, is only to get to the Panim upon him. This is on an individual level and in a collective level. Whenever there's going to be revealed in the world a higher level of a Panim upon him, there has to go through this process of the Nesira. We'll see what we're supposed to do in this process. But this is what he's saying. Which means the higher level of Panim to get to a higher dimension of connection. Zah has to go to sleep. What does it mean that Zah goes to sleep? Zah goes to sleep. Zah goes to sleep means that what's the difference between a person's Adam is muad lo'ilam, right? Also, if a person is yashal, he's a muad, which means a person when he's asleep can hurt somebody. He can jam someone. He can do something. He's physically active. He can be physically active, but his das, his awareness, his self-awareness is not present. So therefore, there's no deep connection between Zohar and Malchus. It's present there, of course. Zohar and Malchus always have to be together, but it's like a level where it's present but it's sleeping. So this is the idea to get to a place, a higher level of face to face. So the Tardema represents
the dormant relationship.
Correct. The dormant relationship are happening in Malchus. So therefore, this was the end of Golus Bubble. They already started the beginning of the tikkun to create a higher level of apim ba'apim. What's the higher level of panim, which was reached bisman of bayesheni? So on one hand, bayesheni was paska nevuah. There was no nevuah. But on the other hand, that's when Torah Baal Peh came. The whole rising of Torah Baal Peh is after the end of Shimon HaTzadik, who was Mashiach answer Knesset Agdola. After those Mashiach Knesset Agdola passed away, Behem in answer Knesset Agdola, Behem Nevi'im Hayu. So after the Mashiach Knesset Agdola, that's when the scholars of Torah Baal Peh started. So the rising of Torah Baal Peh and the flowering of Torah Baal Peh, the Torah that we have now, only happened in a higher level of Apim, but had to go to the Golus, which is the Nasir in the time of the Golus bubble. This is why there was a tzara atzuma, a tremendous danger for Klal Yisrael. Why is it also a big danger for Klal Yisrael? And I think it's very relevant to this generation, what we're going through right now. Why is it Atzar Atzuma? Because now Zoyer Ampin, which is our Chayes, and Malchus are they're tied, they're moving apart. So now there could be a big unique l'chitzoyna. In other words, now Klal Yisrael Kaviyachol is not protected as strong because it could be. That's the Tzara Atzuma. Ashal v'hine ema chashecha gedoyla. Omer AriZal, the Medrash says in the Mishnah, chashecha is goes modai. Sheich name shel Yisrael. In Yanahu, she'az ha'yizay v'sayar demita. Because then that Madrega of Zoh was then sleeping. Ki Haman Arasha, this is the language that I read. Haman Arasha, Hoyastrologus Godel. Haman Arasha was a great astrologist, meaning he understood things. He wasn't just a stam. He was a person. Haman Dafka wanted the girl to fall on Chodesh Adar Sheni, which according to Yishalmi, that's when it actually happened. So, because Chodesh, the next Chodesh, that's what Yishalmi says. Why? Because Adar Sheni is Ein Lamazal. Rabbeinu Ephraim. There's a Shiloh Rabbeinu Ephraim writes already. That's why Amalek did Dafka on other. If it's other Rishon, the Sheni, but whatever, one of the others, definitely the other ways. Okay, we'll say the Shitta is that there's no Mazel. So Mazel can mean there's a Chesar, which means Klal Yisrael is not protected. So this is why he wanted Dafka the girl to fall on that mud. Kuva says Bonov. Koilim Kola says Klip Mechitzoinim. That the Aseres of Bnei Haman is the Aseres Klippas. In Klippa, just very quickly, in Klippa, there's not 10 Klippas, there's 11 Klippas. Why is there 11 Klippas? Because what is, generally the structure is 10. Why the structure is 10 is a whole other long shmuz. But let's say the structure creation occurs in 10. And always when there's Yichud is the Oyer and the Kli are Mesiachet. So the Oyer of Chesed and the Kli of Chesed become one. The Oyer of Chacham and the Kli of Chesed become one. So therefore it's only 10. By Klippa, there's always a period, a separation. Because there's a period, you have Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes. But the Oyer is not mislavish with the Kli. It doesn't become unified with the Kli. So the Oyer is the Yud Aleph, Yala Kisman de Savusa, like the Zohar calls it. Or you have the Yud Aleph Simani Ketores. Same idea. What is Simani Ketores? Why do we have 11 Simani Ketores? 11 Simani Ketores. If you look in the Rambam Gada, the Moiner book, the Rambam says because it take away the foul smell of the Beis Mikdash. The Zohar says that the reason is to break the klippas that are connected with 11 koiches. So the Kotzke and Mr. says that actually the Zohar and the Rambam are saying the same thing. The Rambam was talking about it from a physical level, and the Zohar is saying from a spiritual level. But when the Rambam says you have to get rid of the smells, the Panemius, what is he talking about? The spiritual smells. Saying the same thing. In other words, 11 is to eradicate the koyach of klippa. So Haman, V'aser is b'nei Haman. So there's 10 plus 1. That's the 11, which represents the koyach of klippa. So what did Haman know? Haman knew, Haman, Arasha understood that now there's a less hashgacha on Klal Yisrael in these days. Why? Kili is bechinas hashina. Because the shina. What is shina? Shina means sleep. Who's sleeping? Kuchabrichu. That this is a good time to actually to bring down the downfall of Klal Yisrael. Because Kuchabrichu Zarampin, which is the koyach that we receive, Malchus, which is Knesset Yisrael receives this koyach, is now in a state of sleep. This is the Vikuach Haman and Machashverosh. Im Yalav Yal Meitazu. There was a Vikuach. Chazal don't say there's a Vikuach, but or at least it doesn't say in the Megillah there's a Vikuach, but apparently there was a Vikuach. Machashverosh says you're going to start with the Klal Yisrael. That doesn't make any sense. Everyone that started with Klal Yisrael was erased from history. I don't want to do it. But Haman convinced him why. Haman Yeshna Amecha. The word Yeshna Amecha refers to Ben Amim. So the Chadosh AriZal Yoshin Hu Lekashlam. That Yosha means Yeshnoi is not Yeshna. There is Yeshna means that it's Yosha. Who's Yosha?
Yoshan Vav.
Yeah, Yosha Vav. Yeah, Zayrab, correct. Yosha Vav. Yeah, that the Yoshan is a Lekashlam. The Havan said, at least because he I looked about the Yisrael. Well, what's the reason why there was this durmita? There was this sleeping. It's for the Torah for Yisrael. Kedei Shinasasa and they gave him a churav Yechzagar Barim Barim Yigel Yisrael. Even a Beis Hamikdash. The tachlis of the whole the sira separation is to bring to the binyan Beis Hamikdash Abayis Hasheni. Olchein Yisyatzu Shneim. Ki bezmana hu shel lekashlan kaviyachol yoshem. Yagdimu hem la'abo la'ashmitz neim shel Yisrael. Let's destroy them right now, so there won't be a gula. Because now they're mitzvah dezah. Now Zohar Ampin Galkein Shem Yashnu. So therefore they're not protected. Let's destroy them. Therefore the whole Mesa Mikdash will now be a Chazaras Panim upon him. The Gemara says that Shimsha was writing, Sifra was writing, and the other people were. He was Meichek, and then the Sifrim were writing. What were they writing? So they were writing to Sefer Ezra. If you look at the book of Ezra, the book of Ezra talks about that they told to stop building the Beis Hamikdash because that was the kavanah. The kavanah was it shouldn't be chazaras panim upon him ever. They understood that right now this is the chazaras upon him. This is the last moment. They said, let's hop around. It's the end of 70 years. This is the last time they came to Yisrael Yashna. Now Vaitadar, he says, Hine ap is manad drumito. Even during this time of Durmita, even during this time of sleep, ain't a nekeva yeshena. Not that the cave is yasha. Ki oz, I'll tell you what it is. Ki oz mistak na moichin min zoyer ampin. Min nekeva. The moichin that exists from zoyer ampin, which means everything works like this. We once said this. Moichin is chayes. So the chayes of zoyer ampin is, where does it receive chayes from Bina? Right? There's the Avaim, so Chachma Bina. Avaim, Kilo is the chayes of Moichin. Gives chayes to Zohar, and Kish Elu Ladas, same idea. Becomes Zohar Ampin is the Zachar that becomes awakened, and the Zachar becomes awakened, it can be impregnated in the cave, which is Malchus, which is us. But the origin of why Zohar Ampin is alive, Kuchapricho is alive, Kaviyachol, is because there's Amshachas and Moichin of Bina. So what actually happens over here now is that even though Zohar Ampin is now in a state of sleep, the Nekuda, this is important, what's really happening in this process, and I'll give you the very simple mashal between a parent and a child. When your child is 10 years old and you have a relationship with him or her, and then your child is 16 and they're rebelling and you don't have such a good relationship with them, what is actually happening now is there's the binyan of Malchus, of their Malchus. The child has to come into themselves so they can actually have a real relationship with you. That's just really what so they don't need you. You're the Zohar Ampin, right? So you have to actually put yourself on the side. Whether you go to Dermita the Zah by force or not, you're going to be Dermita the Zah. You're going to be a persona non grata. But the Yanika of this child to create a binyan of this Malchus will also receive Moichin from Bina, which means they'll receive Moichin from a deeper level that's coming through you in order to build up their vessel, to build up their Kalim. So then when they're finally mature and you wake up and you say, okay, actually I have a son and he's 18. Okay, now I have to start talking to him. You'll actually have the moichin to the intelligence. You'll have the ampin, and they'll have the ampin. You can have a face-to-face relationship. So in the process, now let's go into the big state. What is happening in the story with Klal Yisrael is that Nukva, our Madrei of Knesset Yisrael, during the time of the Bayis Yishim, was kaviyachol, like an infant. Why was it like an infant? Because we were in a state of nevuah. Nevuah means, the difference between Torah Shebiksav and Torah Shebal Peh is, Torah Shebiksav means that we're receiving wisdom. Torah Shebal Peh means we're participating in revealing the wisdom, which is the difference between a child and adult, right? So what happens is that the chilik between the first Ampin Ba'ampin and the first relationship, the Bayis Yishim, was we were still like in an immature state. Our nukva wasn't built. We didn't have the moichin to create Torah Shebal Peh. In order for us to get the moichin Torah Shebal Peh, the Zohar Ampin Kaviyachol, which is Kuchabrichu, okay, I'm sure you saw it had to be Yasha, which is Galus, right? Therefore, when there was a concealing of Zohar Ampin, that allowed us to receive something to build up our own vessel, and then when finally the emergence of the Bayis Sheni, we're participators, right? We become helping the unfolding of Torah Shebal Peh. So that's Dafka the Nukva that's rising. This is all answering some of the questions that we had before, why Esther and why all the women, all this thing, because it's Nukva. Okay, weiter. The reason is that it should be chazara, it should return to have a face-to-face relationship, and actually needs to build itself. Okay, now.
Is that why when the miracle finally starts, it's not a Dashnas
Of course, I think the reason to say that very clearly himself soon. Let's just go a little further. So what is Mordechai? Now, so there's Hamshacha. You have to read clear what they're saying. What he's saying is that there is still Hamshacha from the level of Moichin beyond Zohar Ampin. And there's a type of Ashgacha Yisrael Mitzida, and that Ha'ara is called Mordechai. That is the Mordechai. What is Mordechai in this? What's Mordechai in the story? Mordechai is the Ha'ara, the light that shines in the place of the Nasira, in the place of the Dermitza. That's allowing for the binyan of the Malchus, the forming of this Malchus that can have a relationship upon him. It's very important to understand this because in a personal life, and collectively we'll say that the human race, and Klal Yisrael is representative of this idea, that collectively we're always moving towards the Yichud. But you can actually also have, you can spiral backwards. How do you know when you're spiraling forwards or spiraling backwards? So let's say you say that my life is going to a place of Yichud. Hopefully, that's the top tzaddik. You should be this place of Yichud. But it seems like it's going actually in the wrong direction. How do I know if it's actually going from a Nasir, the Mitzvah, to get to upon him, or it's actually going to further back to Achar, a lower level? So the answer is we have to have the Bechinas Mordechai. If we have the Bechinas Mordechai, if we have this Nakuda of Mordechai in the time of Nasira, that's going to be the Kav, that's going to be the line, which is the Kivud, which is the hope, that's going to draw us, that's going to make sure that we're actually moving up and not spiraling down. Collectively, if Yasa Tshuva, fine. If not, Midulhem, Melech Kachashveyash, and we're going to have to do Tshuva. That's collective. We're going to all get there. But individually, and maybe even individually in terms of many lives, it's going to eventually work itself out. But talking about in your personal life, to make sure that you're actually getting higher. Not spiraling down, you need the Bechinas Mordechai. I'll tell you a little further what the Bechinas Mordechai is more clearly. Mordechai. So Haman sees that Mordechai is actually the problem. In other words, the problem that's giving Klal Yisrael any form of hope, any form of possibility they're going to get to, that they're only going through the Nasir to get to a higher level upon him, is the Bechinas Mordechai. So that he sees that Mordechai is a problem. So therefore, he says, she was a big machshefa for other reasons, but also machshefa. Yeah, that's she's kula. Because she was a yoytza. That's why she's a yoytza. 365. Yeah, yoytza. Lahargus Mordechai. L'tois alaitz. Who's zon v'shel nachash. Hamshech regel hakov kidu b'gor etzleinu. Okay. In other words, he said, let's make an eighth to get to the 50th level, the 50th level of Klippa. Like very, very shortly, you talk about Pesach, that if Klal Yisrael would be one more state that we get into Shlit. That's what he wanted. He wanted to get to that to bring Mordechai to that state. Because in other words, Haman understood that Mordechai is the problem. That if he gets rid of Mordechai, it has to be very easy to get rid of Klal Yisrael. Then there was a Nukva Elyoina, who Gdulas Mordechai Esther. That there was a Hagdala in Mordechai Esther. That time they became even greater. What is that? Then you Mordechai Arasi. What is Mordechai Arasi? That's even higher. The revealing of Mordechai was even higher. Very quickly, I'm not going to get into the technical. Not only is it do they get moichin from Bina, which you said before, right, is higher than Zohar, which means will give chayas. The Nahi just means the lowest level of Bina. That's a chayis of Bina, and that becomes impregnated to the Zohar Ampin, right? And that's why you said is always the last of the 10 that's giving over to the next one. So not only is the Amshach moichin, but elafka moichin the Binai the Abba. The Abba means kibiyazim moichin the Ahivim say Zohar yitzim men bezar zachutz. I'm going to skip this. Okay, I just want this the oasis a little bit. When there was a revelation of this higher level of Abba, which is the Yisoid of Abba, that's a Chod Yisoid. Okay, so Yisoid is the final one. That's a Chod Yisoid of Malchus, right? So the Yisoid of Abba means not only is a moichin of Bina, but is also moichin of Abba. Just try to keep the words. And this Yisoid of Abba should Yosa Aruch. The Yisoid of Abba is Yosa Aruch is longer than the yisoid of bina. Bina is nukva, l'fi right? So I don't want to get graphic, but if you use your imagination, the Abba is the father, which is Moichin the Abba. The Moichin the Abba, which is Moichin the Chachma, the Yisoid is actually goes lower, which means that it penetrates into the lowest madrigas. That's what it simply means. So it means that the oil that was revealed on Purim through Mordechai was an oil of Chachma, very high madriga, even higher than the normal level of Zohar, even higher level than Bina, a level of Chachma. But this, the quality of this is called Gavoy Yosef, Yer Lamata Yosef. Because it was such a high oil, it actually penetrated into the very low. That's going to be part of the answer of why in Purim you're allowed to do work, because it's the oil that's nimshach even to the Lamata Mata.
So it's the 50th level or it's higher than the 50th?
There's nothing to do with the 50th level.
Oh.
Nothing to do with the 50th level. No. Because since the Yisoid Nukva is Katzer, it's small, there's a revelation of this Yisoid of Abba even into the Chutz. We didn't say what the Yisoid of Abba is, but there's a revelation of this Moichan of Abba into the Malchus that even penetrate Chutz Malchus, which means that it left the normal parameters. Let's just say, try to translate it. Like normally our Malchus, which we receive from Zohar Ampen, is very organized. Right? I see HaKadosh Baruch Hu in my life, it's guiding, it's very, I get it, it's a system. Here we're saying that the oil that came, that's being revealed, is not only a level of Moichan the Ima that comes through Zohar Ampen, it's a Moichan the Abba, which is like a transcendent oil, and this light became revealed in every single aspect of the world, in all the multiplicity, all the dimensions of life, and even the things that seem to be chutz, even a place that's the absence of das. That even in that place, normally we say in the place of das, like this Moichan Da'ava, Moichan Dima, right? So let's say, like, we'll forget about these words. It's like this intelligence. Intelligence is revealed in something like divine light. Divine light is revealed in us. So it's revealed to us in a very divine, intelligent way, which means I'm a sudar. I see where is Hashem in my life. I live in the place of my das, in my conscious awareness, and that's how I connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Very clear. Here we're saying that the oil of Purim was such a light that was revealed that transcended my das. It didn't have to be in my orderly way. Even my non-orderly way, Hashem is present there. Even when a person's dressed up in a different way, even when a person has no das, is lo yada. Even when a person's shikr, there's still revealing of that moichin da'ab. That's the nekudim. And this was the name of Shem Mordechai Ma'am Shem AriZal Shloshim Mir Dachya Mar Dachya. What is Mar Dachya? Mar Droy, right? We know that Mordechai Menotay Menai. Mar Dachya. What is Mar Droy? More. It's a type of light that's pure zach. It's like a fine shemen, a fine oil, which means that it's a refined light. The nukva lechutz. It's supposed to be a nukva mar. Yeah.
Mordechai is the derech yud men derech yisoid malchus. Yisoid of Abba is coming all the way.
Who said that?
I don't know.
Okay, but it's a good word. That's the Mordechai. Okay, that's the word. Okay, so you see, this is the Yizgal Lechutz. This is the Megillah. Megillah is Lashon Gilui. You're revealing the Malchus. In the Malchus, you're revealing this oil. Okay. What is this? So we have here the structure. Okay, this is the structure. That there's a state of panim upanim, which is a direct relationship. Then the world has to get to a higher state of panim upanim, and to get to a higher place of panim upanim, has to be the seer, has to be the mitzvah, has to be some type of yashan. Alakeim Shem Yashan, has to be Zohar, has to be yashan. But in that state of yashan, we can sense that there's a gilui of yisoid of forget about yisoid. There's a revealing of moichin da'ava, like the higher level of intelligence, that penetrates even the lowest places, and that is the bechina of Mordechai. That's Mordechai. That pure light. What's that pure light? That pure light is the light of Amunah. That's in very simple language, like in Chassidus. That's the light of Amunah. What's the light of Amunah? The clarity of Amunah means that despite the fact that we'll talk on the individual level, because that's collectively it always works like that. In other words, collectively, we always understand that the world is always progressing to a place of yichud. And if you don't understand it, then look at history. You'll see this is the way it works. Every war refines itself, gets to a better place. That's the nature of creation. Creation has to go through some type of system. It clashes, it breaks apart. A new world evolves to a harder state of yichud, the highest state of yichud, the highest state of yichud. So you don't even need a munah to that. You just need a little seichel. But in your own life, how does this work? By the way, this is the very negate that we have this emunah in the collective level, because the emunah is what protects us. You understand? Because we're not kaviyachol, we're not protected because there's a limit to the zah. So we're actually, it could be unique. What's unique of Haman? The really unique of Haman is Amalek. What's Amalek? Suffolk. Doubt. It's not going to work out. It's going to be a disaster. Reish is going with Amalek. What does the Reish is going with Amalek say? That Achrise is always Adi Ovid. It's not going to start off with Amalek starts with a bang, but it always says the Achris is always Adi Ovid. What's the counter of Amalek? Is in Bnei Ephraim Yatzma Amalek that Dafka Bnei Rachel is Yesh Tikva Lachrisecha. That's the tikkun. The tikkun is the tikva. That when we say, yeah, it looks bad, but I have tikva. Tikva comes from the word kav. Kav is a line. If I'm connected to that line of emunah that connects me to that place that I recognize that even though it's not working out, I know it's gonna, because that's the way it is, and that's the way Hashem runs the world. And if I have that emunah, that is the oir of Mordechai, of HaMordechai, the concept of Mordechai that actually protects us. That leichneis kol Yehudim, that Ratzol Yamal Yehudim Makom Acher, that Altirim Pacha Pisan. That's Mordechai. That's the Malarius Mordechai to counter the clip of Amalek. Amalek says, it's not going to work out. It's going to be Achres Adi Ovid. And what does he say? No, it is going to work out. Yesh Tikul Achresecha. This is on a klolistic level, a very general level. It's also an individual level. If you're going through the same process of upon to get to a place, and now you're going through Acher to get to, you had a upon relationship. Now you're feeling like there's a Nesira, there's a Dermit to the zone. You feel like also you don't have connection. You have to remember that if you're Makashi yourself, connect yourself with the oil of Mordechai, which is the oil of Yesod of Abba that penetrates even to the lowest places, means even the places where it seems dark, which is Golas, not in Eretz Yisrael. It's in Neshem Chutz La'aretz. It's not in Neshem Eretz Yisrael, and it's Tafka Yeshua, which is Madegas Halavana, not the Madega of Moshe, which is the Madega of Shemesh of light, which means it's a Makam HaChoshech. But I don't see it. I can't see it. I don't understand how it's going to work out. But I believe and I hope and I know that it's going to work out because I have that kav. Then I'm connecting myself with the Mechinas Mordechai. That's the Mordechai. That's the counters, the klippa of Amalek that breaks you out and makes sure that Taka, your state of Acher Ba'acher, of the mid the zone when things are not working out. It seems to be Yashanu will get to a place of upon him. You understand? It works on a collective way. It works on an individual way. And here we have AriZal Baal Shem. That the Baal Shem uses, I just collected a few pieces. I don't know if you know, I just landed 30 seconds ago from Eretz Yisrael. So this, I collected this before I went, and now I'm thinking, okay, I don't know what I did. So I don't know. But there's very important places over here, just in terms of the way the Baal Shem looks at this, also in the language the Baal Shem has. That there's a few Torahs over here that B'Shem Baal Shem, the first is from it's Kesser Shem Tov, the first page, in Yirmiyah. B'Shem Baal Shem Tov, As Tisal Psulim Mochel, the Moshel of Alila Sha'acher upon Vikir, Muchach Lias Hester, the Fesh Az Daf Yachel Lo, the begins upon Vikir Yasek, Derech HaYikush and Skarb and Chayzim Sahakim. That, when people dance, this is a circle, there's in and out dance, I don't know what it's called. It's a Chassidish dance, by the way. That's why Chassidim dance like this. It comes from Baal Shem. That the reason why Chassidim dance and they make a circle, then they go in and they go out of Machal, is because the Baal Shem said that's a Ratzav Shuv. You get to a place of connection on the bottom, you pull apart to create a higher unity. You pull apart to create a higher unity. You create apart, and you're actually mirroring the process of Panam Apanim, Nesira, and then going to a higher Panam Apanim. Nesira and going to a higher Panam Apanim. In another story over here, the Imzeh, and this is from the Magid, but the Pashas, you heard it from Israel. Oh, you're actually right. You saw Baal Shem Shemaiti. Oh, Mashal is that. He writes, on the left page. It means a person sometimes davens and it feels dark, it feels like he can't penetrate, he can't have any experience, and then finally he breaks through. And then there's a light, a flashing light. This Lisavos, he says, this is Kamashal Hashem. Kamashal ben HaKatan Shetzoikel Avim V'Hoilach Avim Hala Kei Shigala Hava. This is a mashal that the Baal Shem brings down. The Talmid HaMagid bring down many times. The Chayzer, the famous Chayzer, brings down of a Maisa with the child. That you want to learn to teach a child how to walk. So what do? You hold the child by the hand, right? So you have to walk with the child. You hold that child by the hand. Then you run away, right? So what do you mean? The kid's left, but that's the whole point. If you want the kid to walk on its own, you actually have to separate themselves so they can actually move close. You have to move back. That's the Nasir. The Nasir of moving back is for allowing the child to grow on their own. This is what the Panim Panim is. This is the iron in the mitzvah where the child feels like I'm alone. Like, why are you holding my hand anymore? I'm not holding your hand because I want you to grow. I want you to walk on your own. And it's painful for me and it's painful for you. But I have to watch you grow. And he says a mashal Baal Shem, echad hoylech b'desiva shekoyim shvindeltrap. So shvindeltrap is what's shvindel? Shvindeltrap is spiral steps. So the Alter Rebbe once wrote there's a Mayim of Alter Rebbe. He says that the whole mashal of the Ari, that the the Baal Shem Tov reduced this mashal of the shvindeltrap. Shvindeltrap is it's a Rashi Malachim actually mentioned shvindel steak, shvindeltrap, but it's basically the idea of a spiral. What's the idea of a spiral steps? Spiral steps is you get to a certain plateau. Let's say you have to get to 10th floor. So every time you go, you get to a certain plateau, and you feel like, okay, I've arrived. I've arrived to the highest place from this spiral. Spiral starts from here, you get to this point. That's the highest point. You get here, you say I arrived, but then you say, but if I want to get to the higher step, I actually have to move away from here, and then I can get here. No, here's the top spot. Okay, here you have to get. This is the top spot, this corner. So every time you're moving higher, you have to actually move away to get to the higher. Move away to get to the higher. Move away to get to the higher. This is what the shvindeltrap is. This is in a very simple metaphor. The Baal Shem reduced the whole Torah of the AriZal of Rosh Hashanah and Kippur and Purim in this mashal. So you see the light, you get the then when you turn around, you don't see the light. So I see the light, I got finally into the light, and all of a sudden, okay, wait, now what now? And I'm turning away from the light. You're only turning away from the light to get to a higher point in the light. So you're only moving away to get to a higher place. This is the awareness that you have. It's not your either. It's not your either. Yiddish means you're going down. Here you're going up. It's a trap. You're actually going up. You're distancing yourself to get to higher. You're on the way up. That's the word. That's the last thing. Is from some Chassidus Torah. The Rashi Malachim. It's Rashi Malachim Aleph Vav Ches. Yeah, that's. Yeah, you can also say that, but I don't. That's already a next step. He's just saying you should know. Rav Nachman is celebrating the Richok. It's a different Torah. Nachman has. Yeah, that's Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman is a different. I don't want to get into Rav Nachman. Nachman is a different Torah. This Baal Shem is oil. Hashem doesn't say no basta. Hashem is you're getting to the oil. You're getting to the oil. You're getting to the oil. Don't talk about the choshech. Don't celebrate the choshech. Okay, take and the choshech. But you have to get to the oil. Meilach anik b'lashon aska shvindeltrap. Okay, that's the same mashal. Brings on the same mashal. Some brings on more clearly the same mashal that's brought on Hashem Amagid, Hashem Baal Shem of the shvindeltrap, which means that a person always has to recognize that the beginning is Mordechai. What's the beginning is Mordechai? The beginning is Mordechai. This madrega is that you know that you're only getting higher. You're only getting higher. You're dovek to the understanding that you're only not that you're not going lower to get higher. You're going higher. You're maturing to a higher step, and to mature sometimes it could be painful in order to get to the place that you're higher. And that's the or. That's the or zach. That's the or. The pure zach is the pure emunah in the possibility that it's going to get better. And this is God that there's a vort. I don't know if you know, but it's a whole little shmul. But there's a big machlekes in Kabbalah if the staka is shar nun klippa. It's a shar nun klippa. Most Kabbalah say it doesn't say in Ari, by the way. Ari doesn't write about it. Everyone brings on Shem Ari that it says that if Kali would be one last step. There are 49 Madrigas Satuma. One last step they would have fell. It doesn't say Kisari. It's actually not. It's not in Kisari. It says in the Al Shana Kodesh. It says Nagala Ari, but it doesn't say actually in Ari. The Gross says there's no Madriga clip of there's no Madriga Chamishim of clip. There's no such thing. It can't be. So the Yeshleim Atidoch between these two, and the Relashim says the same thing. But it's a big machlekes between Kabbalah. Later Kabbalah post Ari. Yeshleim in the Teretz is like this. Amalek wants you to believe that there's a 50th Madriga. What's the 50th? The 50th Madrega is always is no. Oh, there's Efshari HaMetzias and there's Mechuyev HaMetzias. Efshari HaMetzias means Memtes Panim Torah, Memtes Panim Torah. It could be this way, it could be that way. But as long as it could be another way, there's always hope. What's the 50th Madrega? The 50th Madrega is absolute. It's absolute. That's why when Klal Yisrael reached Madrega 50, which is by Matan Torah, is Paskim Yetzirah and the Cheres Memalach Hamav is Cheres Yetzirah, they reach freedom. There's no longer any Bechira. That's the Madrega of 50. 50 is Mechuyev HaMetzias. I'm absolutely good. That's the Mechuyev HaMetzias of Kedusha. What does Amalek want you to say? That's the Madrega of Chamishim Amma. That's what that Haman wants to put Mordechai in. He wants to say, I'm putting one on the Mordechai says, there's hope, there's future. He says, no, I'm putting you on the 50th Amma. And I'm saying there's a Mechuyev HaMetzias of Klippa. Mechuyev HaMetzias of Klippa means there is no possibility of hope. You're so stuck. The world is so bad. It's so fakak. There's no way out. That's it. It's doomsday. It's going to end. We have to all move to Mars. I don't know. There's no place. I can't even move to Eretz Yisrael. It's not going to work. Like, there's nowhere to move. I don't know where. Everything's over. We have to. That's the clip of the Haman. Now, Haman wants you to believe that. Haman wants you to believe that there's a Madrega of Chamishim, that there is a Chamishim of Klippa. So it's not true. And it's not true because it doesn't really exist. There's no possibility. There's no such thing as there's no hope. There's always hope. Because when a person's alive, there's hope. So this is the Madrega of Mordechai to fight that. Haman wants to fight that and put him on the 50th Amma. And we celebrate. We're Megala Esther. This is why it's Megillah Esther. Megala Esther. Even in Wakam HaChoshech, even in a place that we feel like it's going down and it's going backwards, we actually know that we're in Schwindeltrap. We're actually just spiraling to get to the next Madrega. And we know that the next Madrega is going to be so much more wonderful, so much more holier, and so much more. But it's absolute. Yeah. There's a lack of work. Totally lack of work. Yeah.
So why the
same idea.
is?
Yeah, same thing. Yeah, but I'm not clear. Clear in the whole Metzias. That's why a Molech is. There's no tikkun for a Molech. There's no. Because the Molech says nothing. That's all it says. It's all over. It's nothing. It's nothing gonna happen. Nothing. Yeah. Rakar Kol Yom is a Molech.
So why the Persian name?
Because it goes down to that's what it is. The Yesod Abba goes even to the Makam HaChoshech. That's why it's Baneim. It goes into different time zones and different spaces, and the place of no das, and the place of different languages. The Or is such a big Or that even in the place of the Choshech, normally every Yom Tov, in order to experience Yom Tov, there has to be Aliyas HaRegel. What does Aliyas HaRegel mean? I have to get out of the Hergel, or literally I have to walk up the mountain. I have to stop working. I have to stop doing Malacha. And how do I connect to that Or? By stop being me. Purim says, not only do you stop being you, be you 100%. Or stop, exaggerate you. You normally eat, fresh. You normally drink through. This is talking Purim. This is the Erev Purim. God, I told you the word from the. I told you this word. I forgot from the Vladimir. He writes. He writes that everything that it says in Yom Kippur, because Purim is Yom Kippurim, all the things that you're not allowed to do in Yom Kippur, you have to do b'yasasei on Purim. And he says, yeah. And he says even this is the reason why people dance. He says this is why reason people dance on Purim. People jump around like the shikha usually jump because that's a tickle for little sasando. So you have shoes to jump, which means that everything you do, you have to do more. This is Davodah Purim. This is that's why Pur the Atbash is guf. In the Aleph Tov. What?
If I do nothing,
Atbash is the Aleph.
Why do I do that?
Pur the Atbash is guf. Goof, because it's about the goof. That's why it's not a Suda, and it's an exaggeration of the Suda.
It's also a reversal, right? Because Yom Kippur, you eat before you fast. And
That's the Gra writes about it. The Gra writes that the tikkun, that there's the tikkun for the eating before Yom Kippur, the tikkun for the eating before Yom Kippur, and the fasting on Yom Kippur, because really Yom Kippur you really should eat. It's a Yom Tov. Why are you not eating? So there needs to be a tikkun. So one type of reason why you eat Erev Yom Kippur. That's what we call it. That kol oichel v'shoyis of Erev Yom Kippurim kilo hit kilo sana v'chiv dasir, which means because you need a tikkun for the eating. You did the fact that you didn't eat, but those two together, that you fasted before the eating because it's a kappas for the gadlus, you ate before the eating, is metuken through Tainus Esther and Purim. So Purim is a tikkun for Yom Kippur. The fact that you didn't eat, you need to eat double. But this is the idea of Purim. The Purim is that the Yesod Chacham. But if you think about it, that it's a munah, and its hope and its future. So it's in any state. So that's why Bismaneim and singing Makam Choshech and Makam Blidas and Esther and Nukva and the cave. All the answers really are answered if you really understand it. Because that's the way the Purim. So Purim is the fight against Amalek. The fight against Amalek. We have to fight Amalek day to day, moment to moment. Every moment we have to fight Amalek. Because a lot of times you get to.
How does it work out in these days? How do we find them?
How do you fight Amalek?
What's the avoid?
With
Without a doubt.
get it up, to have a munah, believe that's gonna be good, and that the Abish is gonna work it out, and you're moving to a higher place, and there's only oil, and it is oil. Not that it's choshech, it is oil. It's just oil is so high that in order to receive that higher oil, you have to build a nukva now. You have to build your vessels to receive that type of oil. That the world is going through a hard time. It's because the nukva has to be built to receive a higher oil that's being revealed in this world.
The world is playing Shlit.
Yes, the Abish is playing Shind's but the world is always spiraling, moving up. Spiraling, moving up. I love it. Yeah, we just said it. There's the bars.
It's not B'Shurim,
It's a oir ra da. This is what the Lashon is. Yes, yeah. If you look at the Kasamoifer from the Kaminer, he has all the Chalbonas Gematia, Haman. He has all he ties all the Simon actors to the says Bnei Haman.
More drawer, more is
Mar, yeah.
It's a suffix drawer. It's like a redemption. It's a suffix. More drawer.
Yeah.
It's not redemption for Amalek. Redemption for.
Yeah, because it's transformation of Mar.
Yes, my
Yeah, free. Yeah. Then that's there is fees in the Swedish. Yeah, of course. Dry bars, not the dry bars. Yeah. That's Chazal direction. Mir Dachia, that's the Lashon
I understand that that's the targum.
Oh, how does it mean?
Why is
It's
that the
Yovel.
targum?
It's Yovel. The Panimis is Yovel. What's
I'm saying, how did you get from Drar to Dachia?
How did the targum get to
from Drar to Dachia?
Yes, that's a good try. I don't know. If you want to know the Panimis, I can tell you that because the Drar means what's like the person's Yisrael is Drar. So the Rambam brings down Mashiach Medrash that what's the word Drar mean? Dar. That you could dar or dar. You can live in any place and it continues in different generations.
And also quotes
Which means it's infinite.
Quotes for dar. It's Miachlach, meaning so it's going back to the dar. It's reversing the curse.
Okay.
Maybe the purity allows it to be Dargam Makam Shira.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But it's pure. You can be any place. You can be in any place. That's the freedom. If you have a munah, this is why it's dafke b'chutz la'aretz. That's a national b'chutz la'aretz. If you have a munah, then you don't have to be in a good place. You don't have to be in Eretz Yisrael to say that's where I'm connected. You can be a chutz la'aretz also. Huh? You never rochik.
Not you can't be. It's dafke in chutzlaretz.
Dafke chutz la'aretz.
And why do you have it
Because the zaneh means that it's a yom that penetrates all time. The Chazal is saying that every single time has the oil. Every single space has the word. That's why different places do it differently, different times do it differently. It's an oil that comes down. Usually the oil is very musudar. Comes out this time, this place. This is how you have to act. You have to put on a suit, put on a bekesher, put on a shtam, put on a shlapa, whatever you are. You have to come. This is it. I'm here. Yom Tov. Purim is though your hat's upside down. You're living in this place. You're in that place. You live in this time, that time zone. The oil penetrates everywhere.
So you get out of your base, you give all your dollars.
So loy pachas the Meisas said loy pachas loy yoser was why the Gemara Megillah Kras and then it said loy pachas it shouldn't say loy pachas loy yoser it should say loy lachara pachas yoser doesn't make sense you know the only basic gimel so the Meisas says because pachas yoser means less number higher number less than 11 is 10 higher than 15 is 16 so 10 is 16 Shem Yukivavke it's 26 so in Megillah Kras you know the basic gimel Yadalit 11 12 13 14 15 is 20 is 965 is Shem Adnai. So Dafka Megillah is Nikras Shem Adnai, because you're revealing the same idea that it's revealing in the Malchus, in the place of Malchus, right? And not Lepachas Loyesi. You don't have Shem. You don't have Shem. That's why the name of Hashem is not mentioned in the Megillah. Why is the name of Hashem not mentioned in the Megillah? Not because it's a chesar. But I heard someone say there's a word from the Pinsa's. You're gonna have to like it. I'll tell you why you're gonna like it. I'll tell you the word. That Pinsa's once said that the reason why the Shem Hashem is not mentioned in the Megillah is Chayav lo Psumei. A shikr is also lispalal, so therefore, and maybe Megillah is a type of tefillah, maybe Megillah is a type of Shiur. The Kotzke, I mean, the Megillah is the Lula, exactly. So therefore, he says you should differ the name of Hashem, Kilos is Lula. Like, Halo, you Yotze by reading the Megillah. Megillah, by the way, Megillah, you Yotze three things. Bechis Amalek, Halo, and Mitzvah Kriyas Megillah. It's three separate things. You're doing three separate. Well, some of them are their eyes, actually. Anyway, that's more the Lamdish Torahs. And that's why there's sometimes a difference between men and women, because they're not Mechoyev on Kriyas Amalek, but they're Mechoyev on Kriyas Megillah. That's why they can hear, but they can't learn. Whatever. But so the Pilz Choros has said this word. The Chaim Lupsumi says a person's shikr, different name of Hashem is not mentioned in the Megillah. So I heard from a person, Adam Gadol, that said the pshat is that the shikr shlo miyayin, that sometimes a person is such a chilish sadah, shikr shlo miyayin, so therefore in Golos the Eivish's name is not kind of revealed, therefore the Eivish is hidden. I think the word is mamish Moshe Kapeh, mamish the opposite. The word is it means your person reaches Madrega Lifnei Hashem Titor. It's higher than Hashem. If you're higher than Hashem, you don't need to have Hashem. When you say Boidan Lefanecha, you have to wash your hands before? You don't have to wash your hands before.
It's you.
Why? Because Ani Lefanecha, it's higher than names. It's higher than the name. So if it's higher than name, it's higher than Tumah. That's the Madrega of Megillah. Megillah is such a high Madrega, Chayv L'Psumi, not L'Chasarn. L'Psumi L'Mal Yusar. We're such a highest level that we don't need the name of Hashem to reveal. It's everything in the name of Hashem. Every time you say Melech, his name is his name. Every time you say Chashay, his name is his name. Yeah. Even Haman, Avada, everybody, everything. Just the market. We're market, we recognize.
That's why freedom doesn't have the Zman.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. That's the word. Zman name, Zman Lozan, and impervious all the time. Avada, that's Taka that word. Taka that word.
Makes sense of the story.
Yeah. Shmuel Shila.
One of the tzaddikim that each year when you learn the Megillah, it sounded different. The story was different.
Avada, what do you mean? Not only a story, I had a Zayda that used to listen to Megillah the whole day. This is Avodah. Zal Moshe used to listen to Megillah the whole day, but as the day was progressing, he used to say more and more L'chaim. He was a big Yid, God. He was a tzaddik. Mamash, he's a tzaddik. I don't know he's a tzaddik. I'm not saying he's a tzaddik. I told you once, the only chosser that he ever wrote about tzaddik is a tzal, is on my Zayda, Zal Moshe. He was Mamash, he from the Rebbe Hashabbos. Never last name, he called him Zal Moshe. His name was Yitzchaki. But they didn't, I'll show you his face. If you see a picture, you understand. Exactly. Yeah, Einikel from Rashi. So he was a mamash either. He used to sit and daven for 6-7 hours a day. He was a big balavoy, a big person. It's Avram Yor Shver. So Moshe used to sit and hear the Megillah the whole day, and he would start in the morning. He was also a very medactic mitzvah, so he used to hear the Megillah over and over. But as the Megillah was getting, as the day was going, he used to say Molachai. So it got more level. People knew this story changed. His animations changed. First it was Haman that he's screaming, and finally at the end of the day he used to start with Shomlang and Meisim. But this is the Megillah changes as you drink. It's like the Meisim changes. The oil comes out. Yeah.